What's up everyone, Austin here from Austin Hall Audio and Visual, make pop music and full-time music industry. I know it's been a little while since you've heard from us on the YouTube channel. Me and Daniel have been working on a lot of things behind the scenes. We actually got full-time music industry launched. I think we have a couple videos about that on the channel already, so if you haven't heard about FTMI, definitely go check it out. We're super excited about it. We've also been working on a new website for Make Pop Music where we're going to be having a blog feature where we can do, gear review, post stuff about production tips, business tips. We're also going to be doing features on new releases from the community. So if you're an artist or if you're producing for an artist that, would like a feature in a blog, we're going to be doing stuff like that. So we're just wrapping that up right now. We're really excited about that. And as you can see, I've actually moved. So we moved from South Florida to Orlando. I'm super excited. I've been here for about a week. Love the new setup. Finally getting it all set up. So that's exciting. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about today. So I get a lot of questions on kind of how I set up my template, how I, navigate my projects, all of that kind of thing. So I figured today we would hop into Cubase 9.5 Pro and I would just show you how I have all of my folders set up, how I have my routing set up, how I have my, sends and returns set up, do all of that kind of stuff. This is going to be a Cubase tutorial. However, most of the DAWs that you're in will have similar kind of setups and, workarounds. So maybe you can utilize this in Pro Tools or maybe you can utilize this in Ableton. We'll kind of see, but I just want to kind of go over how I set everything up, and then I'll also go ahead and link in the description below just the template that I have. The same one that I use, I'll just go ahead and take out any of the inserts that are on my reverb, delay, and all of my parallel processing sends. I'll take those off so you don't have any compatibility issues, but you can go ahead and grab that in the description if you want. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into Cubase so you can kind of see what I'm working with. Okay, so now that we're actually in Cubase, let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got in my template. So at the top right here, we've got my marker. To add those, if you're following along and you don't have any of these, all of this stuff can be added with the just add track, so add marker. So this is right here at the top for me. This is just where I mark, chorus, bridge, pre-chorus, whatever. Go ahead and delete those. Then I've got my tempo track right here. You can either just have one tempo or, if you want to automate your tempo, you can just hit Control T and pull this up and you can actually map out your tempo, however you want it to be. So that's always super, super helpful. If you want to map it out, just go ahead and make sure that it's selected and then you can just draw it in like it's automation. So typically I just need one tempo, so I'll just use it like this. If I'm ever mapping out though, it's right here for me to have. So marker and tempo, of course, at the top. And then I have my drums folder. So the way I set all of my stuff up is I have folders and I have buses. So all of my folders are just going to be where I keep every track. So, say I have a snare, a kick, tambourine, all of that kind of stuff. All of those tracks will be just sorted under this color coordinated drums folder. So all of my drums will be yellow at the end, or at least some shade of yellow. So let's say I was to add a track and I wanted to add Groove Agent. I would just add Groove Agent. And then I'll show you this later, but I have my groups, and that's where I'll, route it to. But your routing doesn't actually set it in a specific place. So then I'll just put it under this drum section just so I have all of that organized. Or, I could, drag in a couple of stereo tracks and route them all to drums. And let's route these kick, snare, toms. And then they're all under my drum folder. So then, when I record something, they'll be yellow, they'll all be color coordinated under that drums color. So I have all of these folders for everything specific. So whatever I do within each of those subcategories just gets categorized here for convenience and aesthetic. So it's just easy for me to keep track of all these. That doesn't actually have to do with wherever anything is routed. It doesn't have anything to do with the signal, nothing. It's literally just a folder that you stored in. So what is different is, let's go ahead and hop to my groups. So this is where, a group, a bus, any kind of tube bus or anything like that is going to be all of these. So what I do is basically everything that I have within these subfolders, I'll make sure that they're routed to a group that's that specific name. So I've got my drums group right here. I've got my drums group in yellow because my drums folder is in yellow. So, my Groove Agent gets routed to drums. My kick would be routed to drums. My snare would be routed to drums. Toms routed to drums. So this is going to be where all of those signals actually end up. And this is where you can go ahead and you can do all of the, compression, the EQ as a bus channel. So again, folders have nothing to do with the sound. It's just for organization, but they're all going to flow into these group tracks. So you can see that everything is really, really color coordinated. So I've got drums yellow, I've got bass blue, synth green, guitars teal, lead vocals dark purple, BG vocals lighter purple, effects pink, and then I've got these right here. These are my secondary group tracks. So a lot of the time when I'm mixing, I like to process my bass and my drums together because they're my low end stuff, or I like to do all of my vocals together where I have my background vocals and my lead vocals and all my buses kind of come together, or I like all of my synths and guitars together. So what I do is, like, this drums goes to my drums and bass bus, and then bass will also go to the drums and bass bus. And then my synth is going to go to synth and guitars. My guitars are also going to go to synth and guitars. And then my lead vocals are going to go to vocals all. My background vocals are going to vocals all. And then my effects, I actually just dump that into my master bus automation. So these are all three going into my master bus automation. As you can see, drums and bass go to master bus automation. Vocals go to master bus automation, and synths and guitars go to master bus automation. And I know that you can honestly just send them to your master bus that Cubase has built in. I just like doing this because it's a little easier for me to see and to automate, and if I need to do anything before I get to that very, very, very last step of just like limiting and dithering and everything like that, I've got this. So just to recap, we've got a marker, we've got a tempo, we've got our folders, which are where all of the tracks are actually stored. Then we've got our groups, which are where every track is actually routed and processed as a group. And then we've got our effects channels. So I always add more or take away some of these within a mix. These don't stay final throughout the whole mix. I just kind of loaded my template up with the ones that I use the most often. So we've got a drum parallel. So this is where I'll do anything like my parallel compression for drums, or I'll make a drum kind of room sound or like a reverb if I don't have one. So I can do all of that here. And of course, this is just going to go to my drums folder, or I'm sorry, this is going to my drums group. So if I have a snare drum, my snare drum is going to the drums group. And then if my snare drum needs this parallel processing, that parallel processing is also going to the drums group. So the drums group is going to be like everything that I've got within that folder, and then whatever parallel processing I've got for drums. And I kind of do the same thing with all of these. So like, I've got my vocal parallel compression. I like to do mono to stereo on this. And then I have Saturn set up, and then I have Pro Q set up. And then I actually have some synths set up that are my other vocal synths, like my delays and my reverbs, just in case I want to mix those in. And then that's also getting routed to the lead vocals track. And then I do the same thing with like the parallel widening. I use Dimension D just on setting 3, and then I'll route that to lead vocals. And then my reverb long, I've got my Verb Suite and my Pro Q, and I'll route that to lead vocals. And then I've got my reverb short, just Verb Suite, routed to lead vocals, and then sometimes I'll mix in the reverb long. And then I've got my stereo Vox delay. That is actually going to lead vocals, and it's just H delay and Pro Q. And then I've got my slap delay, again, lead vocals and just H delay. And then I've got the long reverb that I can mix in if I want to taste. And then I've got my mono Vox delay, just again going to lead Vox, H delay. And then I've got my parallel widening and my reverb long if I need it. Then I've got my guitar and synth delay, which I don't use this one a lot. I'll only use it for like rock tracks or tracks where the guitar has a bunch of stuff happening, or sometimes I'll use it for like acoustic guitar. And then that's just going to my synth and guitars bus. And then my guitar and synth reverb also going to my synth and guitars bus. So the way it works is, if I record a kick drum track right here, and I've got my kick drum, I can process my kick drum with EQ, compression, all of that kind of stuff right here. Then that's going to get routed to my drum section. Say I want to do parallel processing with, parallel compression. I can just add that in right here. I can go to drum parallel, turn it on, blend it into taste, and now all of those are going to this drum section right here. So then this drum section right here, I've got my kick, my snare, I've got drum reverb, I got drum parallel compression. This is where I can go ahead and put any final touches on. I've got my fader right here so I can control drums at all one level, all of that kind of stuff. So I like setting it up so, if I pull in a mix, and if I'm mixing a song for an artist, and the artist has, 14 vocal tracks, 12 drum tracks, 4 synth tracks, 7 guitar tracks, yada, yada, yada. What I can do is I can route every single one to go to their bus, so then I can start taking a listen to the buses as a whole, so I can, get my basic level set. So you know, I'll go ahead and route all the drums to the drum bus, all the guitars to the guitar bus, all of the synths to the synth bus, and then I'll start getting my basic balance. Then I can go in and I can figure out, you know, guitar 1 needs to be louder, guitar 2 can come down, guitar 3 can be panned this way, and then, you know, you start processing like that. It's called top-down mixing, so I prefer to focus on the big picture pieces first because that's the main thing that, you know, consumers will hear, and that's the thing that I think normally people spend the least amount of time on when they should spend the most amount of time on it. So it just really quickens up a mix for me, because if I can get it sounding good where all of the buses are just leveled out and lined up and, you know, compressed and EQ'd, perfect. Then if I need to dive into individual tracks, I can, and I've got all those parallel, you know, chains set up, all those effects tracks. Anything that's a send, a parallel, and effects, all of those are the same thing. They all just come back to those buses, and then I route all of those buses to one big guy right here where I can control it, automate it, do whatever I need to do. And that's basically my whole template. So I'll go ahead and I'll put this template up for you, and I'll go ahead and I'll take everything off of the insert so you can actually download it and use it. But that's it. I mean, it's super simple. It looks really, really nice when it's all full, as you've seen. You know, if you've seen any of our other videos, just go look at the template. They're always color coordinated. They're always lined up. They're always super, super neat and tidy. It just helps when you get into projects that are 140, 160, 170 tracks, that you can keep everything straight. And if you need to work on synths, you can just, you know, minimize everything else and only work on synths. And if you need to, you know, mix all of your drums together, they're all on that one bus. So that's just kind of how I set up my whole session. That's how I kind of walk through everything. So if you like this video, you're free to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. We would really appreciate it. It helps us out. If not, definitely at least leave a comment below on what you want to see next. We're going to try to start cranking out content that's based on whatever you all want to see. Just because there's literally endless topics that we could talk about ourselves, but we really want to deliver content that's going to be beneficial for you. So leave a comment below on something you want to see. We'll kind of add it to a pool so we can start making some of these videos. But that's going to be it for today. So we will see you guys next time. Austin from Make Pop Music, full-time music industry, and Austin Hall Audio Visual. Peace out, everybody.